Words are never just words, they are carriers of meaning, mirrors of emotion, and reflections of what lies beneath the surface. When someone speaks casually, without the armor of preparation, it is often in those moments that their truest feelings leak out. A simple phrase like, "I was thinking about you," might sound innocent, but beneath it sits the weight of consideration, care, and presence. Casual words act like open windows to the inner world. They slip out without calculation, and because they are not rehearsed, they often reveal truths the speaker didn't intend to confess. That is why the human heart listens not only to the content of language, but also to the undertone. It hears what is meant but unsaid, what is implied but not articulated. When feelings begin to grow, words naturally change their rhythm. Conversations no longer remain about surface-level topics like the weather or routine. Instead, they shift into deeper layers, filled with curiosity and subtle concern. A question as small as "Did you eat today?" can hold in it more warmth than an entire speech about care. The casualness of language is the disguise of emotion, but is also the vehicle of honesty. People rarely declare their hearts openly in the beginning. Instead, they allow their feelings to seep through the cracks of small phrases, tiny reassurances, gentle acknowledgments, and repeated affirmations. In that way, every casual statement becomes a breadcrumb trail leading towards something deeper. The psychology of language reveals that when someone is emotionally invested, their word choice unconsciously changes. They use more inclusive pronouns like more, thus they repeat your name more often, and they place value on shared experiences, no matter how small. Even humor becomes loaded with meaning. A teasing comment isn't just a joke, it's an attempt to build intimacy, to see how safe it feels to let closeness grow. Words are instruments, but in casual speech, they become instruments of truth. Without realizing, people betray themselves, showing what they hope, what they fear, and what they long for. Listening, then, is not about hearing syllables or grammar. Listening is about attuning yourself to the emotional frequency of words. For example, when someone says, "I miss talking to you," it is not just about missing the conversation, but about missing the connection, the feeling that only your presence provides. Similarly, a comment like, "You make everything better," is not just a compliment. It's an admission of dependence, a recognition that your influence has slipped under their defenses. These moments are subtle, yet they carry the gravity of hidden emotion. This is why attention is such a powerful gift in relationships. By paying close attention to the everyday words, one can see the difference between politeness and genuine affection, between small talk and emotional investment. A casual, "Be safe," at the end of a conversation may appear routine, but when spoken with warmth, it carries the hidden weight of concern and longing. It is through these ordinary words that extraordinary feelings announce their presence. The more we notice them, the clearer the emotional picture becomes. What people say casually is never random. It is a map of their heart, a confession without confession, a message wrapped in simplicity. To hear it requires slowing down, listening beyond the literal meaning, and recognizing that the weight of emotion often hides behind the most ordinary of phrases. Curiosity is one of the clearest signals of connection because it transforms conversations from transactions into moments of intimacy. When someone is invested in your world, they are not content with surface-level exchanges. They don't simply nod and move on. Instead, they lean in, they probe, and they want to understand the layers of your life. A simple, "How was your day?" becomes, "What made your day good?" or "What challenged you today?" This shift in depth reflects genuine interest, the kind of curiosity that does not come from obligation, but from care. It is not just about collecting information, it is about building bridges into your inner world, bridges that allow trust, understanding, and closeness to cross freely. The power of curiosity lies in its intention. People ask questions all the time, but when curiosity stems from connection, the questions hold weight. They are not asked to fill silence or to appear polite. They are asked because the person wants to see your perspective, to live for a moment in your shoes. It signals that your thoughts, your emotions, and your experiences matter. And when someone repeatedly demonstrates this kind of interest, it shows that you are not just another person in their day. You are a priority, someone whose life holds meaning in theirs. Curiosity also has a way of making you feel seen. When another person remembers the details you shared, the name of your colleague, the story about your childhood, the project you're passionate about, it proves that they are not just hearing but listening. Every follow-up question becomes a signal that your words left an imprint. Imagine someone asking days later, "So, how did that meeting go?" Or "Did you finish the book you were excited about?" Such moments reveal more than politeness. They reveal investment, the willingness to store pieces of your world in their mind because those pieces matter. When emotions begin to grow, curiosity naturally expands into different areas of life. It is no longer about the surface. It is about understanding what drives you, what excites you, and what scares you. Questions begin to stretch beyond the daily routine into dreams, hopes, and long-term visions. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Or what's something you've always wanted to try but haven't yet? Are not just idle curiosities. They are gateways into knowing the core of who you are. The person asking is trying to align themselves with your journey to see if they can walk alongside you not just today, but into the future you imagine. Curiosity also fosters vulnerability. When someone asks questions about your feelings, your fears, or your past, they are inviting you to open up in a safe space. They are signaling that your truth, no matter how heavy or delicate, has a place with them. This act of curiosity creates intimacy because it tells you that your inner world is not too much, not too complex, not too unworthy of being known. It gives you permission to share the unpolished parts of yourself and still be valued. The beauty of curiosity is that it cannot be faked for long. Pretended interest fades quickly, but genuine connection sustains curiosity because it is fueled by emotional energy. When someone is truly invested, they will never run out of questions. They will always find wonder in your experiences, always want to dive deeper into your thoughts, and always circle back to the things that matter to you. It is not interrogation, it is care dressed in the form of curiosity. This is why curiosity signals connection so powerfully. It demonstrates not just that they hear your words, but that they hunger to know more, to be more involved, and to weave their presence into the fabric of your life. Vulnerability is often misunderstood as weakness, when in reality it is one of the deepest forms of strength. To reveal one's truth, to admit fears, insecurities, or even unspoken hopes, is not just about self-expression, it is about building a bridge of trust. Honest admissions are never just statements, they are offerings of the heart, gestures that say, I am letting you into my world, into the parts I usually protect. Every time someone chooses to share something vulnerable, they are lowering the walls that shield them, not because they have to, but because they feel safe enough to do so. When feelings are beginning to develop, vulnerability becomes one of the most powerful signs. It often starts small, like admitting to a difficult day, revealing a personal struggle, or sharing a story from the past that still carries weight. These are not casual details, they are windows into the hidden parts of the self. To share them is to take a risk, because vulnerability always carries the possibility of rejection or misunderstanding. Yet, when shared with the right person, it does not push people away. It brings them closer. It builds intimacy in ways that surface-level conversations never could. The essence of vulnerability is trust. If someone admits something difficult or deeply personal, it is because they believe you will not use it against them, mock them, or dismiss it. They believe you will hold their admission with care. This unspoken trust creates a bond that feels sacred, a connection where both people can stop pretending and start being. In that space, authenticity flourishes. It is no longer about showing the best version of oneself. It becomes about showing the real version, flaws and all, and knowing that it will still be accepted. Vulnerability also invites reciprocity. When one person opens up, it creates an atmosphere where the other feels safe to do the same. This back and forth exchange of truth deepens connection because both sides begin to see each other fully. They are not relating as masks or roles, but as humans with fears, dreams, and scars. Every honest admission becomes an invitation for the other to step forward with their own, and in that mutual courage, a new level of closeness emerges. The language of vulnerability is subtle but powerful. It can appear in confessions like, I'm scared I'll fail, I've never told anyone this before, or sometimes I feel like I'm not enough. These statements may sound like weaknesses, but they are actually acts of courage. They reveal trust, they demonstrate openness, and they show that the person values the relationship enough to share what they normally hide. Vulnerability in this sense becomes proof of emotional investment because people do not risk their tender truths with those who do not matter. The paradox of vulnerability is that while it feels risky, it is the very thing that creates safety in relationships. Without it, walls remain high and connection remains shallow. With it, trust is built, intimacy grows, and bonds strengthen. It is through honest admissions that people prove they are not only willing to share their victories, but also their struggles, not only their confidence, but also their doubt. And in this duality lies the real beauty of connection, the ability to be fully known and still deeply valued. Walls protect, but they also isolate. Vulnerability breaks those walls, not recklessly, but carefully, piece by piece, in moments where trust has been earned. Every honest admission is a signal that the relationship matters, that the person is willing to risk being seen, because they believe being seen by you is worth it. And that single choice, to be vulnerable, transforms ordinary interactions into extraordinary connections where authenticity replaces pretense and trust replaces fear. Language is not just a tool of communication, it is a mirror of intention and a map of where the heart is headed. One of the most telling signs of emotional connection lies in the subtle shift of pronouns, the transition from speaking in terms of I to speaking in terms of we. This is not a slip of the tongue, nor is it a grammatical coincidence. It is a signal that someone no longer sees themselves as separate, but as part of something shared, something bigger than just their individual world. When the language of the future starts to include another person, it reveals a sense of belonging that cannot be faked or forced. The shift from I to what is powerful because it carries within it the acknowledgement of partnership. When someone begins to say things like, we should try that place, or if we could plan something together, they are subconsciously weaving you into the fabric of their future. It shows they are not just living in the present moment with you. They are imagining possibilities that extend beyond today. This imagination is the foundation of connection because no one envisions a future with someone they do not value. Every time the word "what" slips into conversation, it is an unspoken declaration you are no longer just a visitor in their life, you are a potential part of their ongoing story. Future language also reveals comfort. It takes a certain level of security to assume someone else will be around long enough to share future experiences. When a person feels unsure about a relationship, they tend to keep their language anchored in the present or bound to themselves. But when comfort grows, when trust develops, the walls fall away and the imagination extends outward. Suddenly, ordinary conversations about movies, travel, or even daily routines become colored with inclusivity. We should go there, if we could do this together, or that's something we'd enjoy, are all ways of signaling, often without realizing, that life is no longer envisioned alone. The beauty of this shift is in its subtlety. It rarely comes with a dramatic announcement, but rather in casual statements that reveal deeper truth. Someone might say, "We'd make a good team," or "That's something we should experience together." These phrases may sound light, but underneath them lies the profound message that they already see you as a partner in thought, in action, or in possibility. The language of "what" is essentially the language of inclusion. It is how people communicate that they no longer stand on separate islands, but are beginning to build a shared ground. There is also a psychological truth behind this. Studies in communication have shown that people in close relationships naturally begin to use more inclusive language. The shift is not calculated. It emerges organically because the brain starts categorizing experiences not as individual ownership but as collective reality. It is why couples often speak in terms of "we think" or "we feel," rather than just "I think" or "I feel." It reflects a merging of identity, not in a way that erases individuality, but in a way that creates unity. Future language also carries hope. When someone says, "We should go there next summer," or "if we could do this one day," they are extending an invitation to step into their vision of the future. It is not only a sign of belonging, but also a sign of trust. They trust that you will still be there, that the connection is strong enough to last, and that imagining tomorrow together is not a risk but a joy. It is one of the most subtle yet profound ways emotions are revealed, because no one speaks of foi unless they are already thinking of you as part of their tomorrow. The shift from "I" to "foi" is not just language, it is belonging translated into words. It is the heart's way of saying, "I no longer see myself walking alone." It is the quiet evolution of connection, the moment when imagination intertwines with intimacy, and the future stops being singular and begins to take the shape of something shared. Small phrases are often overlooked because they appear ordinary, yet in truth, they carry some of the deepest emotional weight. A grand declaration may capture attention, but it is the small, consistent remarks that reveal the reality of how someone feels. Compliments that seem casual, jokes that seem playful, and gentle reassurances that seem offended often contain truths that the person may not even be ready to admit openly. When someone says, "You always know how to make things better," it may sound simple, but beneath it lies appreciation, admiration, and recognition of the impact you have on them. Similarly, a small comment like, "I like when you're around," is not just about presence, it is about comfort, safety, and joy. These little statements are easy to dismiss, yet they are often the clearest signals of growing attachment. Jokes, too, are often more than they appear. Humor is not just entertainment, it is a form of testing closeness, of building bridges without being too vulnerable too quickly. A playful tease about your habits or preferences is more than amusement. It is attention disguised in laughter. People rarely joke about things they don't notice, and noticing requires presence. When humor is shared, it becomes a way to measure safety, to see if intimacy can exist without fear of rejection. That is why even the lightest joke can be a sign of deepening comfort, a message that says, "I feel close enough to be playful with you." Gentle reassurances also speak louder than dramatic promises. Words like, "You'll be fine, I believe in you," may not sound grand, but they carry within them the essence of support. They show that someone is paying attention not only to what you do, but to how you feel. When reassurances are given, they signal investment in your well-being, an emotional involvement that goes beyond casual concern. They are small phrases, yet they anchor connection, making you feel less alone in your journey. These subtle statements accumulate over time, and together, they say more than any one-time declaration of affection ever could. Alongside these small phrases, curiosity emerges as an equally powerful indicator of connection. When someone is truly invested in you, they don't stop at hearing your words, they lean further, wanting to know more. Curiosity transforms ordinary conversations into explorations of who you are. Instead of just asking, "How was your day?" they follow with, "What made it good?" Or "What part was challenging?" This kind of questioning does not come from politeness, it comes from care. It is the language of someone who wants to enter your world, not just skim the surface. Curiosity also creates a sense of being seen. When another person remembers details you once shared, like the name of a friend, a project you were nervous about, or a dream you mentioned in passing, it proves that your words matter to them. The follow-up question is not just about gathering more information, it is about showing that what matters to you matters to them. This is one of the clearest ways people demonstrate emotional investment. It is not the quantity of questions, but the depth and memory behind them that signals true connection. As feelings grow, curiosity expands beyond surface details and begins to reach into your values, dreams, and fears. Questions like, what do you want to achieve in the next few years? Or what do you wish people understood about you? Are not idle curiosities. They are attempts to understand the core of who you are. This curiosity is a form of intimacy. It says, I don't just want to know what you do, I want to know who you are. When combined, small phrases and genuine curiosity form a powerful language of affection. The little compliments, jokes, and reassurances show presence and care in the moment, while curiosity shows an eagerness to stay connected beyond the moment. One speaks through warmth, the other through exploration, yet both serve the same purpose, to reveal emotions without the need for grand confessions. It is in these everyday signals, subtle and consistent, that true connection becomes undeniable. Silence is often mistaken for emptiness, yet in reality, it carries some of the deepest messages of human connection. What is not said, what lingers in pauses, what trembles in hesitations, and what softens in gentle tones often reveals more of the heart than fully formed words ever could. In conversation, the spaces between sentences act like hidden canvases where emotions quietly paint themselves. A pause before responding may not be hesitation in thought, but hesitation in feeling. The moment someone decides how much of their truth they are ready to let slip out. That silence, brief and delicate, becomes a language of its own. Hesitation often carries weight because it reflects vulnerability. When someone feels deeply, their words don't always flow easily. Instead, they stumble, pause, or circle around what they want to say. These small breaks are not signs of disinterest, but signs of care. They suggest that the person is measuring their words not to conceal, but to protect the meaning behind them. A nervous laugh before admitting something, or a soft, I don't usually talk about this, are not fillers. They are emotional signals that something important lies underneath. Silence becomes the bridge between guardedness and truth, allowing emotions to seep through in a way that is felt more than spoken. Gentle tones also carry messages that are easy to overlook. Words said softly with lowered volume or tender inflection are often the ones that hold the most sincerity. A quiet "I'm glad you're here" does not need emphasis to carry its meaning. Its softness is the meaning. It shows that the words are not meant for the world but for you alone. In contrast to grand statements spoken loudly, gentle tones feel intimate, like whispers meant to settle directly into the heart. They reveal affection not through dramatics, but through the quiet confidence that what is being expressed does not need to be shouted to be true. Silence between words also gives space for emotions to breathe. In moments of connection, silence does not feel awkward, it feels full. It allows presence itself to become the language. Two people sitting together without rushing to fill every gap with conversation often share something deeper than words can capture. Those pauses become the stage where unspoken feelings play out. The glance held a little too long, the sigh that escapes without intention, the smile that lingers after a sentence ends. All of these moments communicate volumes, not by adding more words, but by allowing silence to carry what words cannot. What makes silence so powerful is that it bypasses performance. Words can be chosen, rehearsed, even disguised. Silence cannot. A pause cannot be scripted. A hesitation cannot be faked. The softness of a tone cannot be rehearsed into existence. It emerges naturally when the heart softens. That is why silence often reveals more than language, because it is unfiltered, because it is real. People may try to conceal their emotions with well-crafted sentences, but their pauses and tones betray them, offering glimpses of the truth they may not yet be ready to say out loud. Silence also builds intimacy because it requires trust. To sit in unspoken space with someone and not feel the urge to fill it with noise is a sign of comfort. It means the connection does not rely solely on words, it is strong enough to rest in presence alone. That quietness becomes a sanctuary where emotions flow freely, even without expression. In that way, silence is not the absence of communication, it is its highest form, where the heart speaks directly, uninterrupted by the limitations of vocabulary. The pauses, the hesitations, the soft tones, and the spaces between words form a language that cannot be written but can always be felt. They are where emotion lives in its purest state, stripped of performance and decoration. When attention is given to these subtleties, it becomes clear that silence does not hide meaning. It reveals it in ways words never fully can.